that is the world premiere of the 2016 Mercedes-Benz GLC. Now you're probably thinking, what the hell is the GLC? Well, it replaces the GLK, and there's four major themes going on here. The first is size. The second is, well, normally put this as tech, and then there's style and design together, and then this is kind of odd for Mercedes, off-road. They've got this thing rolling dirty at the actual, this is a design house we're in. We're actually at the headquarters of Hugo Boss just outside of Stuttgart, Germany here. So with that, why don't you and I go through a tech overview of the new 2016 Mercedes-Benz GLC SUV. About a car when they change generations, the sizes stay about the same. Like think old E-Class to new E-Class, or really C-Class to C-Class. In this case here, that's really not what's going on here. There's a significant increase in size. Like take the wheelbase, it's almost 5 inches bigger. The width, 2 inches. You look at the length, and this is really kind of where it all ends. There's about 2 inches just in the length in the rear passenger compartment. Then one of the biggest benefits of that size increase is back here, 56.5 cubic feet of storage space. So now let's press on to tech. And tech can translate into a lot of things, but in this case, think about this. You've got a bigger vehicle, so it would stand to reason you're going to have more weight. Not really the case here. So what Mercedes has done is they've lowered the weight by actually 176 pounds. But how do you do that? There's a couple of ways you can do it. You can make the car smaller. They didn't do that here. So they've used more exotic materials. I wouldn't say exotic, but a combination of materials. So the hood, the fenders, the front subframe, the roof. So in this case, it's a glass roof, but if it was a metal roof, and then the rear subframe, all aluminum. And then even parts of the suspension and the insulation on the firewall are glass reinforced plastic. So the overall concept is 176 pounds, but of that, 110 is just the bottom. Then we've got suspension. That's another tech item here. So if you live in California, you know the concept of slammed on bags. This Mercedes is kind of slammed on bags, at least depending on how you kit your car out. So Mercedes has kind of made a huge stink about this idea of having air suspension in this segment. And if you really think about it, it's the BMW and the Audi it competes with don't really have that. So there are really 3 suspensions on offer here. There's a steel spring setup, then there's an air ride setup, and then there's an air ride with dynamic control. Now, part of this trip we've been here in Germany, we actually got to drive the GLE AMG 63S. I know it's a huge name, but it's a very cool vehicle. That episode's coming out on Tuesday. Make sure you come back for that. Anyway, we talk a lot about the dynamic ride control in different settings in that episode, so you can see it in action there. A very similar setup will be in this car. Now, do you remember our Volvo XC90 episode? That also had an air ride setup, and there was one really cool feature that I kind of like to play around with, and that is lowering the load floor. You can do the same thing here. So there's this button, and it will raise or lower the load floor by an inch, so you can take heavy items and put it into your fancy trunk. So there's one more tech item, and that has to do with fuel economy. So there's a couple of ways in which you can improve fuel economy in cars nowadays. You could put the dreaded CVT in and improve your fuel economy. We've had long discussions about this, you and I. Or you could put more gears. That's what Mercedes has decided to do here. Now, I'd love to show you a shifter here in the center, but it's not. It's like most Mercedes, it's over here. This is a 9-speed transmission. Now, this is actually not the first application of this transmission for Mercedes-Benz. So as part of that GLE Coupe S63 episode, we actually drove the GLE 450. That's going to be the first application you're going to see in the US of that transmission, but then you're going to see it follow on here. Now let's press on to style and design. You know, you and I have spent a lot of time talking about Mercedes-Benz interiors as of late, so I think design, let's start on the inside. If you look at this, it looks very much like the inside of a C-Class, and that's because this is kind of based on the C-Class, hence the name GLC. And that is an incredibly good thing, but there are a couple of things I want to point out here. Number one, and one of my favorites, is you can get the Burmester stereo in here now. and there is a head-up display, and then there's two different Napa leather interiors they're doing. There's a full black, and then there's going to be a two-tone interior, like a black and like a light off-color white kind of thing. But really, it's all about design, especially with Mercedes-Benz as of late. Like, take a look over here. This is like the rear three-quarter of this vehicle, and this, I think, is probably the most successful view of this car. Look at how it's changed. It's actually, I know I geek out about design all the time, but look at this. It's the proportion that's changed this vehicle. The last GLK, gotta be honest, it kind of was not on the map for me because it was this boxy, kind of ugly car, where this, it's no longer boxy. It has some sensual design, but most importantly, look at what they did with the actual proportion. So as this seat pillar comes down, then it kind of, there's this line of demarcation where you don't really see the line, you just feel there's like hips to it now, on a kind of a small, medium-sized SUV. But then there's another trick over here. Take a look at the wheels. These are 20-inch wheels. Now this is where we gotta talk about different markets here. So this car is a very fancy full tilt model, but the US cars, all the ones that we're gonna get in the US, are going to be 20 inches, but other markets like here in Europe or South Africa, whatever, they're gonna start with smaller wheels, which is going to affect the coefficient of drag. So Mercedes is very excited to say that this SUV is a 0.31 coefficient of drag, but not so in the US. Okay, so now we get to an area where, frankly, I'm kind of surprised because Mercedes is really pushing the idea of off-road here. Like, for example, when you go to a world premiere of a car launch, they always look like that. They're shiny and fancy and new, they look pretty. But really, what Mercedes-Benz did here is they had this whole film on this screen with the car doing all this off-road stuff, and then they brought this car out rolling dirty. I mean, look at this thing. Like, you can, it's real dirt. I can actually write my name into a world premiere car. When have you ever done that before? And the idea here is they really want to reinforce a couple of things. And the biggest thing is there is some off-road capability here. It's not just the suspension system we talked about here. They built in a different angle of attack of the car than this over the previous vehicle. So if you're looking at the previous vehicle, it wasn't really an off-road vehicle, it's not the soft-roader. I don't think you would go rock climbing with this, but at least now the attack and departure angles is 28 degrees. Okay, so now we get to a point where I'm kind of confused, because if you really think about the GLK, it was not the most competitive car in this segment. And really, what did it compete with? It competed with the X3, competed with the Q5. But now we've got a totally new landscape here, where it's not just a bigger vehicle, it's more flash. So, at least in my mind, it changes what the competition is. So, does it compete still with an X3 and the Q5? Absolutely. But then, think about size. Does it compete with a Lexus RX? Does it compete with a Cadillac SRX? And granted, the Cadillac SRX is kind of old, it's going to be replaced next year anyway, so maybe we take that off the table. I kind of think they've changed the competition more upward. Like, I wouldn't see this competing against a Lexus NX like I saw the GLK. I would be interested in what you guys think about this. I think this is a bonus question. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think this new GLC competes with. Now that leaves us with the obvious question of what GLC are we going to get stateside? Sadly, neither one of these are kind of my favorites because they're diesel engines, both of them. This one is 4MATIC. The one we're going to get is going to be the GLC 300. At least the first one we're going to get is the GLC 300. And basically, it's a 4-cylinder engine. It does 241 horsepower. It comes in at 5,500 RPM. And then it's 273 pound-feet of torque. It comes in at a stupidly low 1,300 RPM. Almost like the diesel. So I'm very excited to drive that. Really, it's one drivetrain option you can get. Do you want to drive interesting, but about 4MATIC. The drive split, 45-55, so it's somewhat rear-wheel drive biased. Now, this all sounds great, doesn't it? And you get excited about a car until someone tells you how much it is. Like, remember with the Volvo T8, that's like a $70,000 car. Not so here. So like the base model of these, they didn't tell me the numbers. I tried to kind of beat them up about it. But basically what I got was it's going to be below $39,000. So before I bid you auf Wiedersehen from Hugo Boss. So we are not going to have an episode on Monday. We will have that episode of the GLE 63S Coupe on Tuesday. So come back and join us then.